welcoming Dr. Surabhika Maheshwari, whom you've already met once in your lectures on stress management. Today, she is going to talk about dialogue with the self. We thought that this would be a very important point about a teacher and the way we do our things in classrooms. So we requested Dr. Maheshwari to please, Dr. Surabhika, please continue from where we left off. Thank you.
I'm only very sorry for all the technical difficulties that we all are facing. I hope some bit of what I was speaking about earlier has been able to get through the various kilometers that divide us. But I will quickly do a recap. We spoke of three important ideas. We spoke of self as being central, and within it, we spoke of the idea of emotional agility. We spoke about meaningful interactions as against forced socialization. So here we are meaning to say that we are interacting with people and having a sense of control while we are interacting with people. We are interacting with the ones that we want to interact with the ones that we want to have an interaction and a social communication with. The third idea is reflective rather than reactive beings. We becoming, moving, and trying to be mindful that we are not necessarily only being reactive to what is happening around us, but also growing into or becoming closer to who I really desire to be, become, and am, and react and act from a space that is inside of me rather than necessarily only react to an expectation which is coming from outside. So, we spoke about these three important things: emotional agility, meaningful interaction as against forced socialization, and third, reflective instead of reactive. Some ideas that I want to bring to you regarding our relationship with ourselves is working on components of self esteem, self efficacy, self confidence, and self discipline. Now, all these four are important in actually training us to have a consistent, comfortable, and growth oriented relationship with ourselves. Now, what we actually a lot of times end up internalizing and creating inside of us is something which is self detrimental, something that already puts us in a questioning position with ourselves. Am I good enough? Am I speaking well enough? Am I bringing value to what I'm contributing to? Am I doing things to the best of my capabilities? All of these are questioning positions. Let us move from questioning positions to self reapproaching, to actually building ourselves to say that, okay, I am good in A, B, C, and this is what I want to build further. I want to learn D, E, F, which I'm not so good at, but I want to extend myself and learn that, right? I want to operate at my best right now. I want to be good enough in what I am capable of rather than comparing myself to either others or to expectations of what others might want out of me. Building some amount of self discipline. Self discipline is slowly and gradually getting to allow yourself to first acknowledge what you might want and need, and second, to be able to drive yourself to do things consistently and comfortably, reaching a certain kind of everyday discipline with your own being. Small activities that we do externally and larger dialogues that we do internally are all influenced by our self discipline. Another part that we like to build up is self-confidence. Self-confidence, traditionally, and as we have known, comes from what other people evaluate me as. And that is where I put a lot of my evaluation of myself also. Instead of only being dependent on the other for feedback, why don't I create a mechanism and imagine that what if I were to know me? And what would I think of me? And how can I actually improve what I feel about me? So sometimes look at yourself as a student that you're interacting with, a child whom you are bringing up, and what would you perhaps do to instill some confidence in that student or that child? So sometimes a little pat on our own backs, giving ourselves a positive response, is what we need to actually create confidence. So with self agility, self compassion, self confidence, discipline, self esteem, reflective rather than reactive, and meaningful rather than forced interactions, I hope that slowly and gradually we will all create beings that we desire to become, have positive interactions with ourselves, and also have meaningful, stable relationships with the most important entity, and that is ourselves. However many difficult circumstances you might have faced, however many more challenges there might be, the one companion that will remain is your own self. And that is a relationship that we need to start getting food for. We need to start building stronger. And we need to start depending on much, much more. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for putting this together. And I'm happy to actually answer questions and take some feedback, interactions, what you might have wanted more, and what I can actually help with your own dialogues with yourself.
Thank you, Survika, uh, for this. Can you hear me? Can you? Can you hear? I can't hear you.
Okay, I can. Sorry, I muted myself as soon as I finished speaking.
Have some questions and some reflections from the participants. One of
Wonderful.
one of them has said, of course, the sound became much better after you put on these headphones. And some of them have said, one of them has said that this is the problem with the earphones which were made in China. Um, so with that, the first question which some of the participants asked was, how do you differentiate between reflection and reaction?
Okay,
An example.
very interesting. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so this is a very, very interesting question that is coming up. So, reflection, when I reflect and I operate and respond to, even if something is an external stimuli, I respond to something from what I would want to do, right? So, for example, a lot of times we observe that we soak in what everything around me. Also, if people around me are anxious, I start becoming anxious. If people around me are angry, I start becoming angry. In fact, if you were to do a small analysis of the various fights that we actually end up having interpersonally, we'd realize that actually, I wasn't so angry at all. I got angry because you were so angry and you were screaming at me. So, did something make me angry? Can I handle it differently than what you are handling this situation as? Am I becoming anxious because you are becoming anxious? So, that is reactive. Reflective is when I am able to pause, look within myself, and see. So, this is actually coming closer to one of our own great thinkers and philosophers, J. Krishnamurti, and he put it very, very beautifully that actually we have to start a process of knowing the place that we are operating from internally, having an internal dialogue with ourselves before we react without being reflective. So, when we are responding as a reaction to what is happening around me without taking myself into consideration, and whether I would actually want to respond and react like that, or whether this is my kind of reaction, without actually an understanding of this, is when I am only reacting and responding in a reactionary manner and not reflecting. When I reflect, I'm taking myself into account. I hope that clarifies it a little bit.
Yeah, surely, surely. There's one more question. Of course, our participants have said that it has been a very meaningful and a very informative and a very nice session which you have taken. One of the questions that comes in is, what is meaningful interaction?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Two very important words that I want to focus on. One is mindful, and the other is meaningful. Okay, it's important to also distinguish between them, and it's important to understand both of them. So, mindful means where I'm engaged, aware, and completely in touch with what is happening around me and to me. So, a easy example for mindfulness is, uh, for example, mindful eating. Okay, so food is in front of me. I'm quickly finishing all the food because I have to get to a meeting, or I have to get to a phone call, or I need to just finish this food to fill my stomach. That is when I am filling my, of course I'm still doing the same action of eating, but mindful eating will be when I am aware of my response to the food, the flavors in my mouth, my chewing of the food and taking it in, and the food satiating me. That is mindful, right? This is being in touch, responsive to the environment and myself placed in that environment around me, right? That's mindful. Meaningful is where I am actually interacting with people, where I am not only focused on um, the randomness of interaction, but what this interaction is bringing to me. Okay. So, for example, even if it is not an interaction that is very pleasant, for example, mm, if a child is crying and you want to quickly respond to that child and tell him to keep quiet or soothe him and deliver what the child might want, or give the child what the child might want, it is important to two things: know where my reactions are coming from, why do I want to do what I want to do in this situation, and the second is, where is this person whom I'm interacting with, where is this person's reactions coming from, what is making this child cry. I know that this child knows that he could have asked for this without crying. What is it that is making him cry? Did I not respond to it? Is it hurting him more? Is it something that he needs immediately? What is happening? So, when I'm saying meaningful interaction, I am looking at more than just what is being put at the table. I'm looking at myself and the other as occupying a space and creating meaning and understanding and knowing where each one of us is coming from.
Thanks, Dr. Maheshwari. One more question which has come is, you've spoken about weakness. And can you hear me?
Yes, yes. No,
You,
I don't think I spoke about weakness. I spoke about difficult emotions. So,
diffi-
is difficult emotions being understood as weakness?
okay. So the question being uh, that people continuously exploit us. when we are very helpful and humble. So how do we remain balanced? You know, I'm being helpful, but I'm being exploited at the same time. So can I
Yeah.
be balanced?
Can
Yeah.
I look? So, for example, I am being exploited. Okay. That means that I have completely given the control of me being exploited to the other person. So, instead of looking at it as I am being exploited, I have to start looking at what is making me feel exploited. Right. So, if I first own up exploiting or being exploited as my feeling of being exploited, then I will start looking at it as what I can do to control this feeling of being exploited, right? So, here, when I say that I have to exert control, I say that, okay, I know that a lot of people might take advantage of my goodness or my helpful nature, etc. But here, how much, how much of an advantage I'm going to allow, okay? How much am I going to control my own being taken for a ride or being exploited or me feeling exploited? So for example, let me actually take a example to make this understood more clearly. So for example, during the current lockdown, if suppose I thought that let me actually make food or make chapatis and distribute it to some people, as many as I can make, to distribute it to some people who come right outside our lane and cannot afford to make food for themselves. Okay. So I say that, okay, my goodness is now being exploited because many more people are coming, or some people are taking the food twice, or some people are actually taking the food and giving it away at a price. Okay. And I feel that, see, I'm being exploited. I have to control my own, pushing my own limits to where I am drawing my line for feeling that I'm doing this out of something that I want to do, and I'm going to continue to do it. So I say that, okay, I can make these many chapatis, and I am going to, out of my willingness to do it, go and distribute them to people who are not being able to afford to make their food, right? Now, what these other people are doing is what I can't control and cannot have an assessment of. What mistake am I doing in feeling exploited or in saying that I'm exploited is I am actually trying and controlling, or I'm actually trying and assuming positions that others might be operating out of. I actually cannot control that. I cannot have an assessment of where is the other operating from. Um, Sometimes dialogues help. So, a small story from my own experience of, say, for example, distributing food to people who are taking this food and I'm feeling exploited. And I'm saying that, oh, you only need 3 chapatis, and why did you take 5? Okay. And I'm feeling exploited. So I decided then to talk to this man who was constantly taking 6 or 7 or 8 chapatis. And I said that, well, this is not fair. Why do you think you're doing this? And he said, and this is keeping other people hungry. And he said that I'm not sure if you will come back tomorrow or not. So I'm keeping this also for tomorrow. So where I was feeling exploited maybe by some people who were taking a bigger share than what I expected them to take, maybe I'm operating out of an assumption of being exploited without understanding where is the other coming from. Two important things here. A, we cannot ever know where the other is coming from without the possibility or engaging in a honest dialogue. And the other is that I need to start drawing my own lines to understand that till where can I happily operate. So don't lie down too low. Don't take on more than what you can chew. Again, think that, are you doing this for some sort of a expectation of a judgment from the other person, from a positive reward, for some sort of a pat on your back coming from the outside, or are you really doing this to ease out something in your own self, to actually do it because you want to do it. And if we are actually true to ourselves, and if we are doing things in a way that are governed and controlled by our desires and wishes, exploitation is not something that can very easily start eating onto our feelings.
Thanks, Dr. Maheshwari. There is a set of questions
Okay.
which I'll put as one kind of genre. So I'll
Okay.
read all of them out, and then you can conceptualize an answer on that. One is
Sure.
how to control anger and frustration,
Hmm.
how to deal with short temper,
Hmm.
how to control negative thinking,
Hmm.
how to control when someone else is reacting,
Hmm.
how to increase patience level,
Hmm.
and can we respond silently when someone misbehaves?
Hmm. Hmm.
I think they are of the same category. So,
Right, right. Oh, wow. A
hmm,
lot of self reflection has already begun.
yes.
So I think I, I, I am feeling slightly satisfied and a little happy that this has created a little bit of self reflection already. Um, Let me break this up. A lot of times we are actually um, getting perturbed by negativity, both inside of ourselves and others, as we look at it and as we coin it. Now, when we see all of these things as anger, short temper, frustration, maybe let me also include anxiety, feeling low, feeling helpless, all of these, right? These are emotions that apparently we don't want to feel, right? Let us look at it slightly more carefully. And that's the exercise that you start to need to do with yourselves. Look at these difficult emotions just a little more carefully. Okay, what is my anger telling me? What is my frustration telling me about me, not about what I'm getting angry about? So for example, I'm getting angry about being locked up inside my house right now, or I'm feeling angry about horrible food that is cooked in the house today, or I'm feeling angry about something that someone did to me. Okay. Now, what is it that this is telling me about myself? Pause. Look at your source of anger carefully, your source of anxiety, your source of frustration carefully. And our focus is not on what has brought on the anger to me. That is not the focus. The focus is, what is this anger telling me about me? What is this anger doing inside of me? Right? What is this anger helping me uncover about myself? Is it telling me that, oh, something that I expected to go a certain way has gone in another direction? Is it telling me that, oh, this is something that I respond negatively to, or this is something that is very important to me and is not being done in a particular way, or this is telling me that I'm unable to control my everyday routine that I was being able to control, right? And can I actually start looking at what are these emotions rising up inside of me as a person? Remember, as a person, not as what these emotions. So don't start telling me that, oh, my anger wants me to pick up the glass and throw it on your face. No, that's not what that's a reactive positioning of your own anger. What I'm asking you to do is 2 levels deeper. What is this anger churning inside of you? And anger often is actually a lot of energy that can be used positively, that can be used to correct, that can be used to build, that can be used. Anger is good, anger is important, anger is not necessarily. So I don't look at things as weak and negative. I look at things as difficult and easy. So happiness might be something that we desire, and we might look at it as a easy, desirable emotion. And anger we might look at as a difficult emotion. But anger is not something that we should not have. Anger is important. Anger is adaptive. Anger helps me deal with a certain amount of expectation gone wrong, right? And I learned that this is not how much I need to expect. And this is not what I should actually do to myself continuously. Anger is important. So is frustration. So is anxiety. They are all very important emotions. And we don't need to constantly look at telling ourselves that, oh, we don't need to be angry at all. No, we actually should be grateful that we have all of this energy inside of us, and let us not waste it in throwing a glass at someone. Let us utilize it at internally repositioning ourselves so that the anger is helpful in creating the change that I want, in accepting what I have, and in managing what I cannot change. Anger is important. Don't do away with it yet.
Dr. Maheshwari, next time I feel angry, I'll
Yeah,
try to recollect all that you just said. And,
absolutely, absolutely. Don't
uh,
angry, don't run away from it. Let it settle down inside of you.
there are two issues. One was a question about patience. How
Yeah.
do we increase our patience and how do we increase our confidence? If you could just take that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. No easy solutions there. Absolutely no easy solutions. Patience is a virtue that develops very slowly. And we often, I like this little joke that God give me patience and give me fast. So patience is something that develops very, very slowly. Some important tips that have always come in handy in my own practice and experience that helps us develop patience is actually start engaging oneself in activities that cannot be accomplished overnight. So try growing something in your garden. If you don't have gardens, try growing something in your pots, right? Put some seeds, water them every day, take care of them, give them good sun, and wait them, watch them grow, right? Watching seeds become plants and plants become bigger and they flowering and giving you fruit and flower is a very, very important lesson that nature teaches us every single day. That actually nature extends itself to teach us every single day. And yet we think that trees will actually come out in a day. And that is what is patience. Patience will grow slowly and gradually inside of you. So, how to start building patience? Number one, know that nothing was accomplished in one day, 1 hour, 1 minute, etc. Be slow, be prepared to try again, be prepared to actually do the same task multiple times till you actually get it right. Okay, start taking small breaks when something is not happening as perfectly as you expected it to happen, right? Be easy on yourself. Everyday things like slow cooking or filling up water or actually bringing up things that you want to build in a particular way. All of these are activities that we do every single day, and we do them concertedly without actually rewarding ourselves or without patting ourselves on our backs and saying that, oh, wow, you actually had the patience for the food to be cooked before it was served to you, for the night to come before you could have a 6 hour rest, etc. These are small things that we need to be mindful of, need to start seeing that we have patience inside of us. We are only not exhibiting it in every situation that we need to exhibit it in. A. So start becoming aware of the patience that you already embody in yourself. B. Start being prepared to actually do things multiple times till you actually get it right. Sometimes I need to read the same article twice, thrice, or four times before I can get the complete meaning of it. And yet again, when I will read it 2 weeks later, there will be more to it than I read it the first time. And be prepared to actually surprise yourselves. We are so caught up in trying to be perfect, in trying to always accomplish everything that we set out to, that we forget that we needed to be a little compassionate to our own paces of learning, doing, thinking, feeling, etc. So, self compassion is something that will also help you build a little bit of patience, right? The third important thing is do larger, look at the larger picture and start actually engaging in larger patience driven activities. Engaging with nature, growing some food, checking out ants actually take food from one place to another. Give yourself some absolute zero time to do things like these, which will actually begin creating some amount of space inside of yourself. The other very important thing that actually helps both in building self confidence and patience and lowering anxiety is creating some sort of a 0 hour downtime for your own self. Please engage yourself in getting bored, in doing nothing, in just sitting by yourself and going over your own thoughts, in just being able to really doing nothing. And that's important. That actually helps us slow us down and create this very important self dialogue that we sometimes completely miss out on in the noise that we are surrounded by in our everyday lives, right? Building self confidence. Okay. Three, four really quick, easy tips of building self confidence. Be realistic in your expectation with yourself. Increase that expectation gradually, slowly. Put out yourself to learning some new skills. Learning new skills is always something that actually creates important inroads into ourselves. So learn something new every couple of years. As teachers, I think we should remember to learn something new every single day. Every single day, pick up something and learn something interesting, even if it is a fact, even if it is something you read that was new, even if it is something, a little game to play with a child, even if it was something that you learned about a butterfly that went by. Anything, learn something new that really does do a huge task in enriching us internally. We often confuse self confidence with our ability to put ourselves out to others. Self confidence is not how well you talk in public. Self confidence should not be measured by how well you are able to hold your own in a meeting or with people or in a relationship. That's not necessarily measures of self confidence. Self confidence essentially needs to be understood in how well you actually create internal dialogue with yourself, which is positive, reflective, and wellness growth oriented. Change what you expect and know necessarily as confident of only reflected in interaction with other people. Self confidence is also something which is very private. Sometimes I know that I'll be able to get through a very difficult time. And that is also a component of self confidence.
Thanks, Dr. Maheshwari. There are, at the end of the day, we are all teachers, and much of our time and our energies are spent in the classroom, dealing with the students. And many of our dialogues that we have ourselves with ourselves probably originate in that podium or in that platform where we are. There are two questions which are kind of opposite to each other, but are related to students and the teacher interaction.
Interaction.
One of them is, how can we help someone who feels lonely?
Right.
And you are a psychologist, and we'll take this opportunity of getting some counseling from you. The other question is, how do we deal with students who are ambitious, or who do not want to work or shirk from work, both, you know So, and you'll agree that we encounter both these categories in our classroom. So, the question being, what do we do with our students, and how do they make us introspect, or what?
Yeah, actually, this is a lot of different questions. Lot of different questions already. Already amazed that we are putting ambition and not wanting to work in the same category. I mean, is the world around us doing something like that to us? Is ambition equal to not doing or not putting in hard work? And does ambition, so is ambition being wishing to just be lucky one day and get everything?
I think I put the question wrong. What it means is there are these two categories of students
Correct,
who are,
correct, correct. One who are go-getters, who
yeah,
want a lot, who want. I don't think we need to be afraid of either of these categories, right? Um, we don't actually. Both these categories are important, and both these categories are to be, and in fact are ever present in even the smallest mass of students. Students who will want to actually outdo themselves and others while they want to rise the ranks and do everything perfectly well and learn at a faster pace, etc. Mm, and the other kind of students who do not want to put in that much hard work and want to take easier ways out and do not necessarily want to toil and suffer. Okay, both these category of students, some things I think, college teachers especially, and I think the narrative, this dialogue completely will change if I'm going to speak to teachers who are bringing up training, developing and interacting with students who are 6, 7 and 8 years old versus students who are 18, 19 and 20 years old. I'm assuming I'm interacting with college teachers right now. And remember that we are dealing already with some sort of uh, a mass or some sort of category of individuals who have gone through 18 years of life, 18 years of experience, 18 years of growing up, and they have been built up by the unique experiences, interactions, etc., that they have internalized in the process of their lives. Um, sometimes what we actually do for our own convenience and is a huge mistake is that we start taking an entire class of 60 people as a cohort which is same, which is devoid of uniqueness, or which is completely which is going to respond to us entirely similarly. I think expect every individual, every child, every student, every young adult to be unique and different in their own ways. Of course, mm, the compulsions of time and our own inability to interact with each student completely and entirely does actually put us on some sort of a disadvantage as far as knowing and responding to them entirely as individuals is concerned. But even while we take a class, please know that and remember that each student is taking in what you are speaking in a completely different fashion, in a completely different manner, and from their own individual standpoints. So while I might be giving the same lecture to 500 people who are listening to me, but each one of those people will take in exactly what is more useful for them, suits them, is able to talk to them at their standpoint in life right now. Similar is the case with our students. So we are not actually talking to a mass which is entirely similar, but we're talking to different individuals. That is the first thing that we need to already be aware as teachers. Now, how do we increase the ability of students to practice hard work, to be responsive adults, to be able to integrate their own work ethic in some sort of continuity? I think we need to also be hardworking teachers. We also need to know that hard work is a two-way street. And I have often experienced that if I am a teacher who gives detailed feedback to students on their performance, on who really reads what the students write, who really remembers how this student has changed from the first lecture to the 10th lecture that I had with the same group, students automatically start becoming much, much more responsive, much more, much more, in fact, participative, and actually start becoming people who are interacting and engaging in the lecture rather than becoming more and more passive as far as the teacher's own interaction is concerned. So I think hardworking teachers unknowingly sometimes actually make hardworking students. So we have to start working, not going prepared for lectures or imagining that the students will not know if I am prepared or not, or if I've read their assignments or not, etc. The students have a sense of knowing it. And the students will always know that you've put in hard work when they can see that hard work being reflected. So I think for particularly student teacher interaction, hardworking teachers definitely make hardworking students. That is something that I have learned over the years. And I think also understand that the student will work. Hard work is not your definition of hard work. Students will work hard from their perspectives, from their standpoints, from their unique positions of hard work and circumstances that they are operating in. So also know and also be sensitive to what to you might be a attitude of, but you are doing nothing but coming to class and not reading when you go back. For a particular student, coming to class actually might be a lot of hard work. We fail to appreciate that. And I think also knowing that students come from various diverse demands on their time and their resources, if we are able to actually appreciate whatever they are being able to get and whatever they are being able to put, they will actually be motivated to put in a little more.
I have one more question, a rather intriguing one. What is the difference between self and selfishness?
Okay, very different actually from a psychological standpoint. Self is a concept which is entirely different from selfishness, which is either an emotion or an act. So self is a coming together understanding of me, myself, and also in this relation the other. Selfishness is my consumption or me completely being consumed by only myself. So selfishness, if I can introduce another psychological term of narcissistic relevance and narcissism, where I'm unable to see beyond myself, right? So what narcissism does is essentially what we understand in very simplistic terms as self-love. But if we just were to extend it a little bit, extend our understandings a little bit about narcissism, we also understand that a narcissistic person is also unable to absorb, feel, and see another person's love and appreciate that. So we are so consumed, a narcissistic is so consumed in self love that they will not be able to see how another person is loving them and being there for them so completely and graciously. Similarly, in selfishness, we are so consumed to see our own benefit and how we will fend only for ourselves that we forget that actually to benefit myself, I have to benefit others. To actually love myself, I will have to learn to love others. And actually, to grow myself, I will have to help others grow with me. So, selfishness actually keeps us away from our own potential of self-love. So extend the understanding just a little bit, and you'll understand that the narcissist is actually doing himself a disfavor. He's keeping away a lot of love that he might get from so many people around him. So, a selfish person or selfishness is keeping you essentially away from so much that you can get from the other.
Uh, in fact, when the confusion of sound and technology was going on, and I was trying to introduce you, I had talked about all value systems in terms of innocence, patience, unconditional love, and forgiveness. I suppose all that is connected with not being
Absolutely.
selfish, and what you just said about narcissism and self-love. There's one last question. I think I've got these questions and I've tried to sift and come to one last question, which simply says that is psychology as as a discipline given any importance in modern education system? That's the question. Where I think what the participant means is that yes, we are aware that psychology is an important discipline within the academia across India and internationally. But I suppose what the question wants to ask is that, in spite of it being a discipline, perhaps we are not able to look at many things from a psychological perspective that the teachers, students, administrators, everybody should be having. Is that lacking? Is there in the entire system, so to say? Yeah.
Sure. Big, broad question, interesting one indeed. So, psychology is a discipline. If so, I'm going to actually juxtapose both the history and the future of psychology into this question. The history of psychology, interestingly, is actually one that has been influenced by a lot of classical disciplines. Psychologists have very graciously taken from literature, taken from physics, taken from biology, and all of these disciplines have kind of contributed and come together to make psychologists and to make psychology the art and the science that it is today. Psychology, of course, is something that needs to actually find its feet and much more influence upon the various walks of society. I think slowly it is being recognized as a discipline. And I think in recognizing psychology as an important discipline, we are also recognizing human beings as an important agent for change in a lot of structures like organizations, like like the ministry, like the systems of governance, etc. So we are not, we are saying, we are accepting that organizations are not devoid of human interaction and human beings inside the organization. So therefore, we are placing some importance on the role of a psychologist in organizations. And when we are saying that we need psychologists to be much, much more active in many more walks of life, I think psychologists definitely have to start playing a much, much more significant, telling, and important role in almost all walks, all areas of human functioning, if we were to start recognizing and making all areas more humane and seeing that human beings actually are the central agency through which larger systemic things function and run. So, governance, organization, schools, education, law and order, discipline, criminality, all of these terms that look like they are terms devoid of human beings actually are have multiple human beings inside of their systems. And the moment we start looking at these human beings and human interactions and saying that these human beings are valuable and these human interactions are important, we are saying that psychological perspectives and psychologists and psychological understandings is important. So, yes, absolutely. Psychologists psychological perspectives, a psychological understanding has to start playing a much, much more telling, deeper, and important role in almost all levels of human interaction and functioning.
Thanks. You know, many participants want your email ID.
Sure. I think, please, yes, I will be very happy. I think let us take advantage of the fact that I'm able to connect to this vast audience thanks to you. So you can please note down my email ID. I'm giving you my personal email address. You can email me on that, surabhika@gmail.com. So it is surabhika@gmail.com. I wonder if we can write it and put it, if people cannot hear me properly, surabhika@gmail.com.
We will post it in the Telegraph.
Perfect.
So
Yes, perfect.
to know about it. Yeah. So I think with this we kind of come to a conclusion to a very fascinating morning of listening to you about a dialogue with your own self, something that we often don't do or we don't have time to. At least our team here in Ramanujan College hasn't had the time to do any kind of dialogue. We've been so busy day and night almost looking after these lectures and posted them in the morning.
Start
So,
with 5 minutes.
yes.
5 minutes. Start with 5 minutes every day.
All right. I'll share that with my team.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, for thinking of me, for being able to connect to this very vast audience with your support. And thank you to the technical team, which is tirelessly behind all of this. Thank you, each one of you, for making this possible. To the participants, for taking out your time, for being patient, for hearing me out, and for being appreciative of my ideas, which might be very different from yours. I do want to hear your reactions and your response. Please feel free to email me. I will be happy to hear from each one of you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I can't express enough how amazing and learning for me also this session has been, both at the technical front and at the self-reflective front. Thank you. Back to you, sir.
Thank you so much for your very kind words. But on behalf of the TLC, the Teaching Learning Center here, and organizers of this induction orientation program, as well as on behalf of my college, my principal, and on behalf of all the participants of this program, a very, very heartfelt, warm thanks to you, Dr. Maheshwari. You've been very kind. You've been a very, very close friend of our institution, and you've always come and supported and helped us whenever we have asked you to. Something that we will be forever grateful to you for doing this. Thank you so much. I want to tell the participants that Dr. Surabhika Maheshwari's lecture has been recorded. It will be put up so that you all can have a relook at whatever she said. So we will be uploading this recording. Once again, to my team, as well as to the participants and to Dr. Maheshwari, a very, very big thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm humbled. I'm truly humbled. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks.